Hi, I'm Gail, and I'm excited to demo a brand new mask design. First, I want to introduce to you the features of the mask. It is got a jersey cotton trim that's very, very stretchable so that it's form-fitting around your face. And it has a muslin liner that is made out of 100% cotton that absorbs any moisture. This is the recommended standards for a very well-designed homemade mask. It has your filter pocket that houses the filter that you can take out, and then we have tight weave breathable fabrics. I'm so excited to show you. Let's go inside and I'll give you a quick overview and then the demo. So here's a child's kit that is all just received in the mail. And now, before we go into the kit contents and sewing the mask, let's prepare the trim. This is jersey knit stretchy trim that has been cut specifically and designed specifically for this mask. It's a child's length, and it will be turned into a stretchy jersey knit binding that you're going to make yourself. So what we're going to do is make our 5/8 inch binding by making sure our iron is nice and warm. And then you're lining it up so that you're ironing it right exactly in half, and that gives you approximately a 5/8 inch binding. You don't have to turn it under again. It's all set to go and be put directly on your mask. And sometimes what I like to do is I actually like to position it first so I don't burn my hands. And then once it's lined up, then I can run the iron over it. And then you're going to take it and you're going to fold it in half, because the center line is the very important thing that lines all our masks up. As you can see here, we have these creased for you because you're going to line up the center of your binding with the center of your mask. And so you get one more quick iron here. And then you're going to do the same thing with this side. And then what you're going to do with the side trims, I can do these together. These are really easy. So you just position them. Again, you're going to look for the ribs. So a nice close-up of the ribs. I'd be able to see that. And you're going to, these are short. These are less than 3 inches for the child, and the adults are a little bit longer. And these go along the sides of your mask for form fit, and they get folded in half again so that they have center creases too, because you'll be lining them along the side of your mask. And then you're going to go ahead and give it a little steam and crease those. And once this half is ironed too, then you're all ready to go to the next stage. And so what you get is folded in half when you get your kit. So you're going to open everything up. You're going to open this up too, and you make sure that you've got both the long pieces. You need 2 of those and 2 little side pieces. Your little nose piece, your front mask, your chin piece, your liner, and that's everything that you need. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be stitching the darts, which involves folding the mask in half like this and stitching them. And then we're going to put the right sides together and form the chin piece around your mask with lots of pins. And when you're done, your mask on the front is finished and it looks like this. And so the next thing after that is that you're going to take your front and you're going to attach your side pieces, and they're going to go on either end like this. And this is what gives you your stretchy fit. And so what you do after that is you take your liner and you're going to sew your liner. It's similar to the mask in that you're folding it in half, you're stitching your darts, and then you're putting a twice turned edge on the sides because it doubles as a filter pocket. It's a pocket, so you're stitching along the top and the bottom, and you're leaving the sides open. And then the last thing, and you're all done, is you lay out these straps and you pin them to the top and you pin them to the bottom and you sew them. This is what your mask looks like. You stitch your top with this nice flexible nose piece. Okay, so we're going to start with our mask front, and we're going to fold it in half with the right sides together and the wrong sides, the back side of the fabric facing out. And if you want, you can pin it, but it's a short little dart, and you always start with the sides and you sew at an angle straight to the end, 3/8 of an inch seam. And we're switching between straight stitches and zigzag stitches. And we'll do the other side very quickly. And then we're going to move on to the chin piece. I always do a back tack on each end of my stitch. Okay. So this is what we've got, and now we're going to open up our mask, and this is the part where you can use lots of pins on. So everything is lined up with the center where you have actually creased your fabric. You're going to line up your center pieces like that on the seam, and you're going to pin them. Oh, I'm on the wrong end. It's really easy to forget to make sure your right sides are together and to pick the right end. You want to work on the side that has the curve on it. That's your chin side. This is what makes it have its three-dimensional fit. So you're going to pin the center. You're going to pin the side, lining up the edges together. And you stretch it and pin the middle. I pinch where I want to put my pin, then I pin. And then I like to put pins in between because there's less likelihood of a pucker. The chin piece is the trickiest stitching thing you'll have to do, and it's pretty easy from there. I line up this side on the edge, put another pin, keep your pins perpendicular. Pin in the middle. You don't want to catch any puckers on the back. And then I like to put an extra pin close to the center line. And on the back, I turn it over, make sure that there's no puckers. If I see where there might be a pucker, I'm just going to add another little pin. And then another 3/8 inch seam gets sewn right here. And as you sew, you want to pull on your mask, which really helps take out any creases. All the way to the end. Okay, we just sewed our chin piece. We're going to turn it over, check the back. There's a tiny pucker here, but that's actually going to iron out. In fact, I'm at my ironing board, and what I like to do, it's not absolutely essential, but it keeps your seams from getting messed up when you're sewing other things on top. I like to press my seams down. So these are getting pressed down toward the bottom of the chin piece. See, this is the top and that's the bottom. And so I'm pressing both the darts and the chin piece down, doing it on the other side, pulling on it a little bit, stopping in the center. I want to still have my center lines, and this is fine. Here we go, the finished front mask. Okay, so now we're going to sew our side pieces. So you need to find these little guys that you've ironed in half. And I want to show you what you'll be doing with your zigzag stitch. So you're going to put on your machine a zigzag setting, and you're switching between that and straight stitch. And you want to sew close to this edge. And what you want to do is make sure that you're catching all 3 layers in one stitch that goes all the way through and catches your binding on both sides. So this is what we'll be doing. You find your binding that you've ironed in half, and you find your center line, and you line it up with where the dart seam is, which is the center of the side of the mask. Fold it over where you've ironed it, and you're going to take a pin and put it right through that middle, and make sure you've caught both sides. And once you get the hang of this technique, you'll be using it for both sides and also the top and the bottom of the mask, where you're gathering in your fabric a little bit and then stretching as you sew for a form fit. These have been pre-cut just the right length, so when you line it up with the ends, it's going to have a nice stretch to it. So what you do is you stretch your fabric and you pin. Oh wait, I got to pin the end first. You want to always do your middle and then your ends, and then you stretch your fabric like that. And the way I do that is I stretch and pin, or I can stretch and pinch with my thumb and grab a pin and put it right through like that. I think my way of doing it is holding it in my hands rather than laying it on a table. And you check and make sure it goes through and catches both sides. And now we're ready to go ahead and make sure you're on a zigzag setting. And you're going to pull on your fabric as you sew. And you sew as close to the edge as you can. And I still like to back tack on both sides. And you're going to do the exact same thing now on the other side. Okay, so now you've sewn both sides, and you're still going to want to flip it over and take one last look to make sure you've caught all 3 layers. And I want to point out that sometimes your zigzag may zig a little more than zag while you're pulling on it, depending on how sensitive your machine is. And don't worry if your zigzags aren't super even or perfect. This is a homemade mask, and it takes the fun out of it if you expect perfection out of yourself. So that said, now we're moving on to our liner, which is the nice cotton muslin liner, which also serves as a filter pocket. And we're going to do the same thing with the liner. I'm going to fold it in half, and we're going to stitch the darts from the sides going toward the middle. And normally I would match my thread color on the liner, but I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. So make sure you're on your straight stitch setting, and go along, back tack on both sides. And it's just an angle stitch from one side to the other. Flip your fabric over and line it up to the edge. Sometimes pinning is a good idea to make sure it stays in place. Line it up for your 3/8 inch seam. All the way at an angled point until you run out of fabric. Okay, so now we're going to iron the darts, and we're going to iron them facing toward the bottom. So I want to explain that the mask has a curved top and a flat bottom for the liner. And the flat bottom is what's going to line up with the flat bottom underneath the chin piece. And so you have to kind of lay it out like this to check and see where your flat bottom is. That's again why I like to iron the darts, because then it tells you exactly which way your mask is facing. So we're just going to crease these darts down. Okay, so we're doing the twice turned edge now on the sides of our mask, and I've already sewn one side to show you how close the zigzag stitch should be. So I'm going to turn this around. You can see it's pressed down. So when I do my twice turned edge, I'm going to turn it once. I'm going to turn it again about 1/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch or so. And each time I turn it, and I'm going to pin. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the edges and put in a pin. And on this side too. And put in a pin. Then I'm going to make sure I've got my zigzag stitch setting and run a zigzag stitch right close to the edge. You're going to line your the center creases, and we're going to run a base stitch. It's a zigzag stitch across the top. And as I said, it doesn't have to be exact. Sometimes it'll even overlap like that, and it's not a problem if it overlaps a little bit. It's all a matter of exactly where you put all your seams. And this mask is pretty forgiving in that area. So the top and the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and pin the bottom too. See, I'm lining it up to the bottom of the mask on the centers. And on the side. And then on this side. And now here's a good example where it's not perfect, so I'll just split the difference on this mask and bring it in like that. And stretch it right here and pin the center afterwards. It's inside and it'll still work out just fine. And the next stage, which is the final sewing stage, is where we're stitching your ties on the top and the bottom. So I'm going to do the top, and then next time I come back, the bottom will be stitched on there too, and then I'll show you how to attach the nose piece and you'll be done. So here's the top piece. And you line up where you've creased your center line to the center line of the mask. And then you're going to lay it out on a table or on your machine or in your hands. I like to use my hands. And you're going to bring it in a little bit, about the same width as your binding. Kind of like what you did on the sides, you'll be stretching when you pin. So you're going to put a pin there. Again, you're catching all your fabrics. Same technique. Pinch and pin. You can add more pins too if you want to. The idea is you're making sure that your fabric is all the way in near the crease. So again, show you what I did on the other side. I'm bringing it in, closing up the binding piece on the front, making sure that I'm pinching it where all of the fabrics are held together. I stretch it, that and pin it. So now we're ready to run the entire stitch across from one end all the way across to the other. So in one stitch, you're actually doing the ties and finishing off your mask at the same time, which is pretty cool. So here you're going to want to stay very, very close to your edge, but not as close as when you get to your mask. I kind of come in a little bit, but it's in a little bit to the right of the edge. And you don't want to pull on the stretchy jersey knit at all. You're holding it very slack, because otherwise it won't stretch. It's fully contracted and relaxed. But then when you get to your mask, you're going to pull on it and you're going to stitch a little closer to the edge, like this. And when you get to the other edge, you're going to relax your binding and just gently guide it. Okay, so now we've gotten the top. You can see that it's sewn through all of the pieces, and it looks great. Okay, so we just sewed the top and the bottom, and our mask is done. And you see how stretchy it is? Works great. And there's flex here, there's flex here, and it form fits to the face really nicely. And now we're ready to go ahead and sew our nose piece. And I went ahead and put in white thread because you want to match, no matter what kind of creative detail you want to do, you want to match the color of your thread to your nose piece. So here's a little trick to get it centered every time. You pin it, or you pull it back halfway. And so there's your middle. And you line that middle piece right up to the center line of the crease that you have in the fabric. And then once it's lined up, you pull off the other half, line it up evenly, and press down. And I like to put it just above the zigzag so it still shows a little bit. And it's very important to sew it because this adhesive isn't permanent. And also, please position it well, because you can't really move it very easily afterwards, and then your fabric can get all gummy and unattractive looking. So get it down good, and then you're going to line it up. Make sure that you're on a straight stitch setting, and you're going to stitch right where your center on your presser foot shows you to stitch right down the middle. And you want to make sure you're back tacking on either end. Okay, so here we go. And it might seem weird to sew over plastic, but it sews like butter. It really does. It's so easy. And then when you get right to the end, you back tack on the other side right over the plastic. And your mask is officially finished. Ta-da!